House is 50% complete. Keep it up.
Yeah, enemies don't stand a chance.
Subtracting from the timer. Time decreased.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with the source material of this game, let's do a quick recap. You are Iron Man. You've been turned to steel in a great magnetic field, and this happened as a consequence of travelling time for the future of mankind. Nobody wants you. You just stare at the world, planning your vengeance that you will soon unfold. Actually, you know what? Wrong Iron Man. You are in fact superhero Tony Stark, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. You're not out to kill the people you once saved. You do not have heavy boots of lead that fill your victims full of dread. In fact, you don't even have any feet. Alright then, let's just use our invisible legs to move past all that and into an early verdict. Is this the best Iron Man game ever made? Absolutely. But that's not much of an accolade. Compared to an oversaturated IP like Spider-Man, Iron Man fans have been starving for titles. The difference between the two franchises is pretty stark. Also, quality-wise, the Iron Man games we do get feel like they've been made by a team of interns from some sort of secret, underfunded entertainment wing of Hammer Industries. All that being said, a new question then. Is this game the best VR representation of a superhero to date? And is it what developer Camouflage insists it is? Something that elevates PSVR gaming into a true AAA experience. Basically, is this a must-buy? Will you love this? 3,000. You know what? I'm going to answer that in a little while. For now, let me just make like this game and throw a 40-second load screen your way at a weird, flow-destroying point in the proceedings. I'm doing this to you for 3 reasons. 1, I'm a sadist. 2, because it will give you some sense of how many times you'll be hit with these. Pretty much every time there's a major scene change. And 3, doing things this way will give me some time to get a bit of housekeeping out of the way first. For starters, if you don't want to hear the sultry sound of my voice, I respect that. You can jump to the many sections of raw, non-commentary gameplay I've sprinkled throughout this video. Go take a look at the YouTube playbar. Everything has been segmented into topic chapters and gameplay chunks. Furthermore, if you just want to see the game played from start to end credits, and on the hardest difficulty no less, with zero talking, I've got you covered. Check the description for a link for my 5.5-hour Let's Play. I've even done you a solid by cutting out all of the load screens like this one. And in case you're wondering, it was about 16 minutes chopped out. And you know what? I've spoken for way too long. Let me just shut up and allow this game to speak for itself.
There's another concentration of mines over the South Bridge.
These mines are keeping us busy.
A plausible scenario, sir.
Well, it's working. We can't just ignore them.
More hostiles approaching. There's at least one mine nearby.
Around here somewhere.
You've left the search area. We need to find the remaining mines. Synth health is suboptimal.
Huh? Our block party seems to have moved.
Alright, so for a game that's as short as this, and we're going to focus in on the true duration of this game in a second, I've decided that I'm not going to spoil any of the major twists and turns. Now, I will talk about the heroes and villains who have been revealed in pre-release previews and in that generously sized Iron Man demo that we got, but other than that, I'm just going to keep this pretty bare bones. The basic gist here is that this is divorced from the MCU. It occurs in its own vacuum, but it does have big stinky winks to that movie universe. For example, Tony has a pretty familiar oceanfront home in Malibu. He has catch-ups with Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. on a very familiar-looking helicarrier. Plus, the game is spiced up with the odd sprinkling of pepper, and Friday attends as well. Unlike the films, however, the latter has a projected humanoid form, and she's flanked by another AI, called Gunsmith. And yeah, he's an earlier build, one who's more in line with the personality of pre-cave Tony. Essentially, if you asked him whether it's better to be feared or respected, he'd say, is it too much to ask for both? And hey, while we are laying everything out, let me just say quickly, do not expect any Avengers action. The Tony in this universe absolutely has joined Fury's super secret boy band, but none of his pals ever show up. Tony and his imaginary computer friends are on their own, up against Ghost, a phase-shifting, hacker-happy supervillain. Without saying too much, she's a formidable and mysterious opponent, but she does kind of rely a bit too heavily on the old drone tech, which doesn't make for the most diverse cast of targets to blow up. More on this in a little bit. Moving on, it has to be said that you're going to start this story with a slight culture shock. That kinda had to happen. A small studio like this was never ever going to get the funding to secure Robert Downey and Gwyneth Paltrow to reprise their roles as Tony and Pepper. Fortunately, I think the replacements actually do more than a halfway decent job here. They make the roles their own, rather than try to be inauthentic sound-alikes all the time. And it's the same deal with the guy who puts in a solid enough effort as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because let's face it, there's only one Samuel L., and nobody's going to be a patch on the real Fury.
So this is why you asked me here, Nick? S.H.I.E.L.D's hard up for hardware?
Other contractors stepped up. We're doing just fine.
That flip phone says otherwise.
This isn't ours, smartass.
Overall, and though I sort of thought some of the antagonists and their evil schemes were a little deja vu derivative in spots, I quite like this tale. It kept me hooked until the end, and when those credits did roll, I was glad that I suited up for all of it. I mean, the script is quite tight, and though the bants you have with your AI and nemesis features the odd dad joke, Tony still eyeballs a couple of zingers.
Tony Stark, what do you get the man who has everything?
Antibiotics?
Lastly, it's important to note that Camouflage is clearly invested in the 52 years worth of Iron Man source material. Hell, one of your secondary antagonists hails from the Vietnam era of Iron Man. Me mentioning that should delight you seriously OG fans who were actually alive and reading comics back then, or I may have just put you into a purple haze of PTSD, and for that I'm sorry. Speaking of a crap ton of purple, let me just shut up and show you some of the unlockable suits on offer.
Regal, sir. Warms the heart. Such clever detailing on this one. Fierce. A sporting armor, sir. A stealthy choice, sir. Impressive and aggressive, sir. Your Arctech in armor form. Neat.
Man, how good does that look? Some of you say Steve Rogers, but I reckon that is America's arse, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, let's get to the much more important part of these proceedings. That lazy old reviewer cliche. Does it make you feel like Iron Man? Well yeah, you bet your armored buns it does. If you're a VR enthusiast like me, you probably already own at least one of the best examples of every archetype of VR gaming that's out. You know, the driving type, the first-person shooter, the sit-in cockpit flight sim. That said, I can tell you that there's just nothing out there like this unique experience. What you're looking at here is a double move controller only game that fits your mitts with both firepower and propulsion. Pulling the triggers while facing your palms downwards, and preferably behind you, will light up Tony's repulsors, and they effectively push you along. Double taps cause afterburner bursts that can turn you into an Elton John-esque rocket man. Alternatively, the same technique can be used to rapidly change directions to dodge incoming enemy fire. Expect to do a lot of this, because this game ramps up into bullet hell very, very quickly. I'm going to talk about Tony's shooting game in a minute, but if projectiles aren't your thing, you can hold square to charge up your fists. Providing a target is close enough, making punching motions will allow you to triple combo 6 shades of lubricant out of your enemies. Likewise, terrestrial foes can be sorted out with a ludicrously satisfying ground pound that also comes with a free side dish of post-smash bullet time. And you know what? Here, let's just take a look at the VR comfort options while I'm talking. You should know that my gameplay examples are all smooth turning set to fast, with all the vomit preventing visual aids switched off. Nudging your flight path can be done in-game with a little bit of head movement, but to truly run rings around people, you'll need to use 2 face buttons to turn more significantly. It's also worth noting you can engage a hover mode if you tap circle, but yeah, I mean it's old school Quake rules here. To be stationary is to order yourself a lead salad sandwich to go. Now some of you may be wondering, will this game make me sick? I honestly can't say, because how long is a piece of string, sort of thing. I mean for me, I'm lucky enough to have my full VR sea legs. Practically nothing phases me. I did, however, run some tests on a few unwilling casual gamers, and the results were actually kind of surprising. The test subjects I had, who couldn't handle more than 2 laps in VR through Gran Turismo Sport, capably handled a dogfight or 2, no motion sick sweating, and nobody wanted to do the old Technicolor yawn into a bucket. So that's nice.
This is a timed combat trial, boss. Down a lot of drones fast. Got it.
So I can fix the suit.
Yeah! Power up!
Alright, let's get to the shooting. As you can no doubt see, Tony is beset on all sides by drones. Lots and lots of drones. Now, granted they are reasonably clever and are constantly layered in with new tactics that will keep you on your non-toes. However, towards the end, I really found myself wanting for some variety. A few more battles against actual humanoids would have been nice. That being said, blasting things never gets old in this game, and there are always new ways to go about it. At his most basic, Tony has palm-firing repulsor blasts that are on a generous cooldown and can be eventually upgraded into powerful charged shots. To use these, simply flick your virtual glove upwards into the talk to the hand position and mash one of the top buttons to get zapping. Interestingly, you can even do this while your other hand is being used to fly, just at 80% of your top speed. Even better, if you tip your fingers downwards from that position, like a king telling his subjects to kiss his ring, Tony's wrist will bloom open with some auxiliary attitude adjusters. These suckers hit hard and have a longer cooldown, but the upside is they can be individually swapped out in Tony's mid-mission garage. To do so, you'll need to earn up to 5 possible research points per mission. That will come your way if you absolutely nail the objectives. For convenience sake, you can even set up 2 different weapon loadouts, and I was pretty impressed with the selection here. Some of the higher missions on the hardest difficulty definitely required a tactical rethink of my armaments. Make no mistake, there's some depth here.
Iron Man is with you. Copy. Some damage taken, sir.
Got a spike on my 6!
Denied! Friday, any update on how to take down this cage?
Still evaluating, sir.
Tony, we've detected explosive devices inside the helicarrier.
The ghost's been busy. Friday, give me a location on those bombs.
Marking them on your HUD.
Lasers. I'm sensing a trend.
The nodes at each end supply power to the core. A blast of refrigerant to each node should do the trick.
Time to put these bombs on ice.
The explosive core is inert. Excellent. 2 to go.
So I imagine some of you may have done a double take when I said that this game is 5.5 hours until you hit some credits. Don't be too worried about that because there is a silver lining here. That was a straight run that I did. I didn't go hunting to unlock every research point and every weapon/suit upgrade or even any of the cosmetics. By the midpoint, you can also undertake replays of earlier missions, but now Camouflage layers in both combat challenges and flight challenges. Bloody tough ones too. And these are going to earn you more scratch to pimp out your suit. Hell, you can even just go for a free flight if you want. And the flying physics are such a joy, I can totally see more mellow gamers wanting to do that. But yeah, on the topic of revisiting things, and sort of bouncing off that earlier gripe I did about the army of lookalike drones, Camouflage kind of takes the piss here when it comes to environment reuse. Pretty much every single environment gets rolled out twice in this game, sometimes with spookier lighting, or a different type of day. Either way, it's a bit of a problem, especially considering the shorter runtime of this game. And while we're talking downsides, I did spot a small handful of frame rate skips during particularly intense firefights. Not too many, but I figured I'd mention it anyway. I mean, I could count the instances of this on one armored gloved hand, and there's every chance that this could just be patched into oblivion before you even hear this. And it's not all bad news. There is actually a post-credits bonus challenge. By default, that thing is cranked to the hardest difficulty, and challenge-wise, it's more of a beast than the Hulk with a migraine. We're talking an endurance mission of 40 waves of enemies, 0 checkpoints. It's going to keep you completionist busy and bashing your head against a wall, because you're going to need maverick levels of dogfighting skills and all the best upgrades you can get. This mission, combined with the generous challenge side content, could in fact get you to the 8 to 10 hour playtime that's been stated by Camouflage.
Unibeam at full charge, sir. Suit has been damaged.
And so, we get to the end game. Clearly I love my time with Iron Man VR, and I have plans to go back and tick everything off. Also, in these hard up for hard disk space times, I still fully plan on keeping this installed, just to wow any VR first timers who visit my house. Because this is a peripheral seller on par with the likes of GT Sport, X-Wing Rogue One Mission, Blood and Truth, Resi 7, and the almighty Beat Saber. Iron Man VR drops jaws to the floor in nanoseconds and keeps them there. Mind you, is it AAA though? It's PSVR AAA, which is, I guess, AA. Visually, it's one of the best looking and handling games we've yet seen for this device. Having fully articulated arms helps, and Camouflage provides some impressively lush and expansive environments to slingshot through, and they manage to offer all that without the usual blur and crappy depth of field pitfalls. More importantly, zipping around with your arms bristling with guns as Tony Stark, man, that crap just never loses its hot rod sheen. Personally, I went into this expecting nothing special, to be fed a taste teaser of a tech demo that would, a short time later, become as lackluster and unappetizing as my first taste of shawarma. I'm pretty stoked to say that that wasn't even close to the case. Essentially, if you have a PSVR and money to burn, you would be stark raving mad not to suit up into this high-tech prosthesis.
Opening targeting suite. Repulsors ready. Hands up, palms forward.